Okay, what we're looking at today is a trio of Seiko 6139s, commonly referred to as the Bruce Lee. If you're familiar with the myth around the Seiko Pogue, the 6139-6000 series, and how it was the first automatic chronograph to make it into space, and therefore named after the guy that carried it, then you'll probably have heard of Bruce Lee, the famous 1960s and 70s action movie star. And anyway, he was pictured a lot wearing a Seiko 6139, and various people have done some research as to which model it was exactly, but it was a 6139 6010. Now, somewhat surprisingly, this model appeared to come to market before the 6139-6000. So the Pogue, which is the by far the most popular of the 6139 series, was slightly later to market than the 6010. And as a result, this particular 6010 model was probably the very first Seiko automatic chronograph ever produced. There are some versions of this that have been seen dated to January 1969. Now, the three that I've got in front of us here are a Japanese domestic market, or JDM, black dial 6010 from March 1969. This one is distinctive because of the fact that it's got 5 sports at 9 o'clock, and it's described as a Seiko speed timer, whereas the other ones just say automatic chronograph. Very much like the Pogues and the other 6139 models. And because of their age, these other two have water 70-meter proof at 9 o'clock. So the blue one is from August 1969, and this quite unusual brown one is from November 1969. So most of the catalogue photos that you'll see of these are either black or blue dials, although later, when the 6012 models came out, there were a number of variants, like a black dial with a white subdial, or a lighter grey dial, or in fact there's one that's all gold colours, at least probably Seiko gold plating on the case. But the brown one is perhaps the most unusual, because it's not brown that's gone that way through patina as you would see on other watches like Heuer's and Omega Speedmasters and that kind of thing. It was always that brown colour, and there are a few other Seiko models that exist in the same sort of era that came out with this brown. But it's believed that the brown Bruce Lee, if you want to call it that, was actually a Hong Kong special. So the distributor at Hong Kong at the time was known for making, it seems, special orders of the factory. So in the Pogue video that I did, there's also a bit of discussion about the silver proof dial, which was never in any catalogue and is very rare. And the collectors basically conclude that this brown dial Bruce Lee is probably of the same kind of character. It's got a Chinese day wheel rather than a Japanese kanji wheel, so that again stakes it out as being most likely and it's an export model because it doesn't have 5 sports on it, but it didn't have a kanji wheel, so it was very probably Hong Kong. The blue one here you can see is also an export model, but it does have a kanji day wheel on it, and the black one has kanji on it because it's a JDM model. The bracelets are very similar. These are often referred to as the triple railroad, and they're really comfortable. They're very flexible, quite light, not too jangly, and they're surprisingly robust, although sometimes you'll see models where the individual links that hold the bracelet onto the end link, which are specific to just this particular link, if these break, then you're basically in a bit of a hunt trying to find a replacement link for it. In terms of the clasps, on the JDM one it says 5 sports on it, whereas on the other ones it's just a regular Seiko clasp, so it's just like a lot of other bracelets are. On the case backs, they are standard Seiko horseshoe backs, so serial number and the usual stuff on it, and like I say, these three are all 6139A movements, and in this the JDM one here, it's 21 joules, whereas the others are only 17 joules. So we'll take a quick look at some of these watches in turn in a bit more detail. So this is the brown dial here, and I'll move the light around a little bit just to give some idea of the shading on it, and it is just, I think this is fantastic. It's very chocolatey brown in colour, and it's really even as well. The one telltale that you'll find in a lot of Seiko 6139s is a bit of a halo around the subdial. So you can pretty much see there's a bit of a sort of red tinge on the edge of the subdial, and that's just because of the way the dial was finished. Effectively, the lacquer starts to get a bit thin there, and over time it lets a bit of moisture in, it starts to discolour the dial. So these are really attractive, I think, but they're all great looking watches, I think. And if we take a look at the proof blue dial, again, you know, the iridescence of the dial is fantastic. These do discolour a little bit, but they seem to be less prone than other variants. And again, we'll just throw a bit of light on things just to change the perspective of it. But yeah, this is a beautiful blue dial. Catches the light in the daylight ever so well, and it's a lovely looking thing on the wrist. And the black dial JDM model is again a fairly flat black colour really, but it's quite a rich finish to it. Seiko logo is slightly different, and you see the speed timer text at the top and then 5 Sports stuff at the side. In my opinion, I think the blue 5 Sports looks a little bit cluttered and a bit cheesy, so I generally will prefer the simpler just 70-meter proof that you see on the non-JDM watches, but this is one that came up and it's kind of hard to resist really, so I ended up having to pick this one up with its original bracelet as well. It's somewhat controversial maybe to call all of the 6010 series watches Bruce Lee, just like a lot of people argue that you can only call a Pogue if it's a yellow one, if it's a 6005, if it's got resist on the dial, if it's from December 1971. But a lot of people are a bit more relaxed, and they'll talk about blue Pogues and silver Pogues just as easily as the yellow ones. In my opinion, it's easy just to say any 6010 series watch, we can just call it a Bruce Lee for the sake of argument. So this one I got here, this blue proof Bruce Lee from August 69, and next to that is a yellow proof Pogue from July 1970. Now both of these have a 6139A movement in it. Both of them have 2-piece chronograph hands. You'll see them later on show up with a single piece chrono hand, possibly installed at a service, or just that's what became the norm after about 1972 or thereabouts. And the dial loses its water 70-meter proof or water 70-meter resist markings around about 1972 as well. They just moved to plain dials, and it's reckoned that the production cycles of both of these watches is about the same. So they started in early 1969 and went on till 1976-77 kind of era. But the Pogue is substantially bigger actually in feel. It's about 2 to 3 millimeters wider just because of the shape of the case, and it's possibly another 1 or 2 millimeters deeper on the wrist as well. And just because of the flexibility of the bracelet on the Bruce Lee, it's potentially quite a lot more comfortable watch to wear. Now I love the Pogue. I think every watch collector should have at least one Seiko Pogue, but I actually now find the Bruce Lee to be a nicer watch to wear in many respects, and the blue colour here is just absolutely fantastic. Now if we compare a blue Bruce Lee with a blue Pogue, or blue Sévère as some people might say, because the blue 6139-6000 was also worn by a racing driver called François Sévère, and people have started referring to them as that, much to the displeasure of some in the community. But anyway, the blue 6139-6000 on the right here is from June 1970, and the finish on the dial of pretty much all of the blue Pogues, if you want to call them that, is quite markedly different. So the Bruce Lee is quite iridescent, whereas in the Pogue it's a reasonably flat colour, and this one's actually aged reasonably well. Quite a lot of patina on it because it was a one owner watch before it came to me. So you can see that the bezel is quite faded on the 6139-6000, but it just means again the Bruce Lee really does stand out, and the blue colour is absolutely fantastic. So bringing another blue Pogue for comparison, the one on the left here is quite an unusual 6139-6007 from 1971. This one I think was only made available in the Spanish market, and that subversion, the 6007, was only ever available in blue. So there are a few differences in the layout of the dials between that one and the other blue Pogue that I've discussed in the other video that I did. But basically it's an America's market one, so it just says Seiko Automatic at the top rather than having the chronograph as well. But the point I want to make here is that on the Bruce Lee there is only one dial code. So the code that you'll see on the lower left, on the lower right of the watch, it says 6139, Seiko 6139 on the left, and then 6040T on the right hand side. On the Pogues, that one typically says 6030 if it's an export market watch, or 6009 if it's a US market watch. In the Pogues they had a T and an R subversion of that, and the R was a slightly different finish. But on the Bruce Lees it's all T as far as we know, so you just find the 6040T rather than the 6030 T's or R's that you get on the Pogues. And here are a couple of other Bruce Lees. So the one on the left is a resist model, so it's slightly later, mid 1971. After what they'd already moved off the 70 meter proof and moved to 70 meter resist, and it has a one-piece chronograph hand on it, as opposed to the two-piece hand that's on the one in the middle. The one on the left is wearing an aftermarket Uncle Seiko bracelet, but this two-line bracelet here was often found on American watches, so you see it in the America's catalogues of the day, whereas the three-level one, or the triple railroad as this one is called, is the one that you most often see in the Japanese catalogues and other international ones. This other one here, the black dial one, is in a bit of a sorry state, but it's a later watch. It doesn't have anything at 9 o'clock. It also is missing its chronograph hands, both of them, and in fact it's actually missing about half of the movement as well. So I bought this one as a part of a job lot because I wanted the bracelet from it. It's a bit of a running theme in my collecting, is that I buy things because of not the watch but the stuff that comes with it. So I took the bracelet off to use elsewhere, and I thought I'd maybe then be able to just restore this watch, but it probably is going to cost more to fix it up than it'd be worth. Talking of worth, the Bruce Lee is for some reason valued considerably less than the Pogues. 6139 6000s are routinely changing hands now for, knocking on £1,000 if it's got an original bracelet, if it's in good shape, if it's been serviced, that kind of thing. But even like the blue proof in the center here, it came to me having been serviced by the guy who I use normally. It was one of his own personal watches, and that one cost me less than half of what a Pogue would have cost if it had been the same kind of era and vintage. That said, blue Pogues tend to be the cheapest of them all, and it's the yellow ones that most people want to go for, or the special colours like silvers and that kind of thing. In the Bruce Lees, blues and blacks are the mainstream ones, and the other colours seem to be even more of an outlier and are probably less valuable. The brown is possibly an exception, but they're so infrequently show up for sale that it's kind of hard to know exactly where to pitch them. But the bracelets are generally pretty good. The Uncle Seiko aftermarket one here is excellent as well. We'll take a look at these three movements now. So the one on the left is the 17 Jewel 6139A movement, and that's from the blue proof dial from August 1969. The one in the middle is the Japanese domestic market, and that is the 21 Jewel 6139A from March 69, and the one on the far side here is a 6139B movement. That was the blue resist one with a single piece chronograph hand, and that was dated from October 1971. So this is the sort of transition here between them really. The earlier models got the 6139A, and then from probably mid 71 the 6139B became more apparent. So there we have it, a review of a handful of Seiko 6139 aka Bruce Lees. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Check out my website, vintagewatchadvisors.com. I write a bit about these and all the other watches that I record on video, and if you've got any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day. Bye.